Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Daily Devotions with Pastor Peter. We are in Joshua chapter 16 right now, and we're going to the sons of Joseph. This is a really interesting chapter and something for us to think about. So let's read together in Joshua chapter 16. This is what it says. The allotment for the descendants of Joseph extended from the Jordan River near Jericho, east of the springs of Jericho through the wilderness, and into the hill country of Bethel. From Bethel, that is Luz, it ran over to Adaroth and the territory of the Arkites. Then it descended westward to the territory of Japhilites as far as lower Beth Horon, then to Gezer and over to the Mediterranean Sea. This was the homeland allotted to the families of Joseph's son Manasseh and Ephraim. The following territories were given to the clans of the tribe of Ephraim. The boundary of their homeland began at Ataroth Adar in the east. From there it ran up to upper Beth Horon, and then on to the Mediterranean Sea. From Mikmethath on the north, the boundary curved eastward past Ta'anath, Shiloh, to the east of Janoath. From Janoath it turned southward to Adaroth and Na'arah, touched Jericho, and ended at the Jordan River. From Tapua, the boundary extended westward, following Cana Ravine to the Mediterranean Sea. This is the homeland allocated to the clans of the tribe of Ephraim. In addition, some towns with their surrounding villages in the territory allocated to the half-tribe of Manasseh were set aside for the tribe of Ephraim. They did not drive the Canaanites out of Gezer, however, so the people of Gezer lived as slaves among the people of Ephraim to this day. Another chapter about land dividing. If we looked at the earlier studies, we know that Reuben sinned against his father's concubine, and thus his birthright was divided between his brothers Judah and Joseph. To Judah went for leadership. From the tribe would come kings of Israel, and Jesus would come through that too. But to Joseph went the double portion of his firstborn, and that's what we see that's happening here. That meant he was able to get two portions, one for Manasseh and Ephraim, because Jacob blessed Joseph's boys and considered his sons as his own, and Joseph and the tribe of Levi didn't have their own portion. So that's what happened. So to replace Joseph and Levi, and so we see that taking place here as when they got their land. Now, just as Judah did in the last chapter, received most of the southern region of Canaan, Ephraim and the other half-tribe of Manasseh got most of the central region, with the Jordan on the east and the Mediterranean on the west. The border is not as precise as those of Judah as we see here, and we don't see the cities that were there, but as we see here, their limits were spelled out and was specific where when. But one of the mistakes that they did here was similar to what Judah did before. Just as Judah failed to drive out the Jebusites out of Jerusalem, the Ephraimites failed to drive out the Canaanites out of Gezer. Why is this a problem? This is a problem because what ends up happening is the people's sinfulness of these other nations will continue to be around. And as much as I look at this chapter and question, why they did what they did, I kind of understand each and every single one of us. If there's some sin in our lives, or even for people who are alcoholics. And one of the things I've noticed for alcoholics is that they have to constantly stay away or not be around alcohol. When you're committed to doing something that's right, you've got to remove yourself from the situation entirely. For cigarette smokers, they may have to remove themselves. For drug users, they have to remove themselves. For people who are addicted to YouTube or social media, whatever, we may have to remove ourselves, because at any given moment when we're around one of these, we have a temptation to go back to it. And it's easy to fall back to our old habits when it's available to us. Those of us who are dieting, here's another thing too. When you're trying to diet and around you, you see tons of food that you shouldn't be eating, and then you see your food that you have to spend time making. It's so much more difficult to make good food when there's so much other, quote-unquote, good food that you shouldn't be eating that is around you. Or fast food. It's hard. It's very hard. But for us, the right thing for us to do is when we are given an inheritance, an opportunity to start fresh, to remove any sinfulness in our midst, when we leave ourselves a back door like this, or some remnants of our sinfulness, or some access to it, in it, or whatever, some access or connection to it, it will come around and bite us in the very end. We have to eradicate it. Now, I say that as though I have authority on that. It is not easy to eradicate sin. It's so easy to fall back into our addictions. For example, I think it was 5 or 6 years ago, I decided to start with a trial of sorts. For me, for the longest time, I've never drank coffee. I would just drink it casually. I would enjoy it when we go out socially with people or whatnot, and I would just buy a drink and never really have a consistent drink that I would have every day that's caffeine related. At one point, I said, you know what, I want to have an idea what an addiction, a substance addiction might feel like. And I started trying coffee, and I started drinking coffee from the Italian coffee maker. And since then, I've been trying different things. I currently use the AeroPress, and once in a while, I use a regular coffee maker to make coffee. But I'll have to admit, once I started down that road, it was hard for me to let go of coffee. I tried espresso for a month, every day, having a glass of coffee or espresso that I made. It was super good. I liked it. I got used to it. But then when I stopped, man, oh man, it was so hard. And here's another thing, too. As, people who don't like to waste their stuff, I still had coffee grounds around the house. I don't want to waste it. I don't want to throw it away. Let me just finish it off. So I finished it off. Let me just buy another round. And I bought another round. And at times I would try to stop. I would try to do different things. I do that and stop from time to time now. And I can. It's just hard for the first couple of days. You get headaches, withdrawals, and all the other addictive signs of being addicted to coffee. But it's one of those things. When you leave it around in the house, when you're tempted by it, when you walk down the supermarket aisle, or even better yet, when you're at Costco and you're walking out and there's people grinding their coffee in those coffee grinding machines, which I don't recommend. I think the best coffee is to grind them at home the beans at home right before you drink it. You smell that aroma. And it's almost as though it's like the people of, the Canaanites in Gezer. They're there. That remnant, it's there. You have access to those people. You could engage into their practices. You could engage into the coffee. You could smell the coffee every time you walk out of Costco at that machine. And I think that's a smart place to put it. Why don't they put coffee grinders inside the store? Well, because you need to buy it before you go out. But see, they do that at Whole Foods, right? But at Costco, what do? And Costco's notorious for this. I know what they do. I think it's a trick that they're trying to trick us. But if you notice, Costco stuff is never in the same place for a very long time. And the most important things you need to buy is located all the way in the back. Look where all the toilet paper and water and cleaning supplies are. It's in the back. Food, produce. What you need, it's in the back. What you don't need is always, as you walk into the store, there's things greeting you right at the front. That's called temptation. That's the coffee that comes out, where that is at the end when you walk out of Costco. It's there because the people don't want you to open bags and just grind coffee there, I'm sure. But then that smell, it brings you back. I remember. And sin, too, if you think about it, it's very, very addictive. Once you engage into it, it's very hard to pull yourself out. Because it touches into your sensory area, your receptors that give you pleasure. And for us too, when we don't eradicate sin in our lives, even the inheritance we get, as good as it is, if we don't eradicate the temptation to do the wrong things within it, what ends up happening is the temptation will come back. And that's why trusting in God is key, and living according to His strength is key, and doing what we're supposed to do like Joshua, and following God, reading His Word, never departing it, never swaying left or right. Remember that verse? Joshua 1:8? It's important for us to memorize that verse, to know it, because temptation's everywhere. And to leave a back door open for temptation to come back again is just asking for problems later on. Eradicate sin has to be not only mentally and emotionally and spiritually, socially, but it has to be physically. The question that comes down for us is when we're face to face with choosing God versus choosing and going back to sin, have we really, really committed to God, or do we have something that's still in our closet that we want to go back to? My friends, all of us have something. But the question is whether or not we're going to trust God moment by moment. Everyone has something that they could go back to. Everyone has something that they know that even if they eradicate in their lives right now, if they wanted access to it, they know where to go. Drug users would know where to get drugs. Alcoholics know where to go to get alcohol. sinners know how to go back to their sins. And we all have those struggles. So my friends, take some time, think about it. Pray to him and ask him, first of all, to forgive you, but second of all, to help you. And you can't say that I've exterminated. Think of termites. I think one of the things we have to do at our house is probably termiting. It's been 10 years. When termites come in again, you have to eradicate it, kill it. But they will always come back if you're not careful. And it's sometimes nothing you can do. Sometimes it just presents itself to you again. And you got to make a choice. Either eradicate it, do something about it, or just let it infest a little bit. You can't see at the very beginning, but as wood rots from the inside, it becomes hollow. And it's just a shell of what it should be versus what it really is supposed to be. So my friends, another soul-searching episode, I guess you could say, but hopefully it was enriching to you. Convicting, but good. It's like a good, therapist. They know where your pain is, but once they push onto it, you're going to get relief. Anyways, have a great day, everyone. We'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.